Welcome back. We've made our way to the dining room. I need a table because I have a bunch of books that I'm going to talk about today. So in the previous video that I discussed my journey from a very codependent relationship, not just in my personal lives, but also in my spiritual life, and how I shifted that by moving out of or away from Christianity. And there were many books that helped me along my journey. And yes, I did a lot of healing, but books have really transformed my life. And writing has really transformed my life. And I love to read, I love to write, I love to learn. I'm an avid learner, I'm always learning. And I don't see an end in sight. And just like in healing, I also don't see an end in sight. Healing is infinite. It's infinite. And I want to say that because early in my journey, I thought that I would get to some place in my life where my healing would be done and complete, and that I could just move on and be fixed or fine or enough or worthy. But what I've come to realize, and if this is kind of like earth-shattering for you, I want to honor where you are right now, because when I heard or when I experienced the embodiment of knowing that healing never ends, it was a very fragile time for me. Because I had spent thousands of hours and, so much money on healing. And I was like, it was at the time a lot of energy, because I was putting a lot of energy and effort into it. And so I was just kind of devastated that it never ends. But as I look back now, so I discovered that in 2022. As I look back now, I think, no, this is a gift. This is a gift that healing doesn't end. It's a gift that there's so many different ways to heal. I write in my book, Reclaim Yourself, there are as many ways to heal as there are people on the planet and more. And so, we get to experience healing. I believe that healing is a privilege that we get to experience in our daily lives, in our moment-to-moment lives. And what is healing for me? Healing for me, it's an embodiment of love deeper within us. It's allowing love to be where it's never been before, understanding, compassion, empathy, perspective. It's feeling heard and understood. But it's ultimately feeling loved. And what I love about healing, one of the many things I love about healing, is that not only does it change your life, but it'll change the life of everyone around you. If there's someone in your life that you think, gosh, I just wish they would do this or this or this, and then our lives would be better, take that and go inward. Take that and go inside of you and say, what can I change within me? Or what can I change? That's not it. It's really not it. It's what can I love inside of me that would allow me to love and accept this other person. Okay, so let's get back on track here with my books. Okay, so many books helped me through this process. So The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle and The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen-Lakhiani. Those are one of the first two books that I ever read. I loved Vishen-Lakhiani's book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, because it taught me that I was living in the culturescape and that I needed to see beyond the culturescape that I was in, that I was just living in what I knew. And I also love that he was a software engineer turned, not healing enthusiast, but mindset / shifting your mind enthusiast. And so I really related to him. And then there was the book, The Power of Now. And my brother-in-law recommended both of these books to me. he was at the time a professional baseball player. And so, he was looking at all these, expanding your mind books. And I was like, oh, great. So I grasped onto The Power of Now and The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And I just kept going. I was gone with all the books, that like hundreds and hundreds of books that I found to read and to understand. And so I just have a few here. And they tell different parts of my journey. So The Power of Now, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, those are in the beginning. And The Power of Now was all about being present. It was all about being in the moment. But I couldn't be in the moment. And a funny story is that I thought that The Power of Now was about getting things done now. I thought it was about not procrastinating. And in 2017, I was like, yes, that's the fucking that I need. I need to stop procrastinating. I just need to get things done. I have so much on my plate. But what I realized is that it's about being present in the moment. And what I also realized at that time is, for me, I had quite a bit of trauma that I had to work through. And being present in the moment, it wasn't possible for me at that time without working through my trauma. Now, that's not the case for everybody. But for me personally, I had to work through the trauma so that I could be fully present in the moment, because, anything and every thought was working to get me to not be in the present. I couldn't enjoy time with my kids. I couldn't stay focused on a page of the book. A lot of the times I would drift off. It would be hard to go to sleep. Anything that I couldn't enjoy what was right in front of me. It was always being taken somewhere else by some thought that was working to protect me, to keep me safe from not being present in the moment. Because it learned that the moment was a scary place to be. It learned that in the moment I could feel. And if I felt, then I may have to feel what I needed to feel. I may have to feel what I've been running from, what I've been hiding from. I may have to deal with the things in my life that I didn't want to deal with. I would have had to have the uncomfortable conversations that I didn't want to have, that would have made my life better. But the status quo, I was okay with the status quo at the time. So I was doing everything that I could to stay out of the moment, to stay out of the feeling, excuse me, or the feelings. And so it wasn't possible at the time for me to be in the present moment without doing the healing work. And of course, I read all the Gabby Bernstein books, and really worked to understand what I needed to heal. And for me, right, there was the trauma that I experienced in my childhood and teens, but there's also the trauma of not being able to be myself, the grief of not knowing who I was or who I am. Now I have a clear understanding of that. I'm ever evolving. If you come on next week, I'm going to be evolving even more, because I love to learn and reflect. But at the time, I really didn't know who I was. My identity was what I did. My identity was what other people saw, not what I could feel in perspectives of who I am. So I went on the journey of reading all the books, and this book right here, okay, so let me see, 2019, okay. So this book, Conversations with God, got me through a really hard time. This is with Neale Donald Walsch. And Neale Donald Walsch, this book is about him having a conversation with God. And I would open it and I would read it based upon how I felt. In 2019, I had a business, and then in 2020, it failed. And so it was a really hard time for me, like a very hard time for me, even though I still had my whole engineering career, and it wasn't about the money. It was about like the failure of it and feeling the loss. And so, I mean, obviously it was difficult to lose all the money I invested in as well. And the other people that invested, that was very difficult. And that was probably the most difficult. But you know, it was a book that helped me get through, right? God has always helped me get through everything in my life. There hasn't been a time in my life that I haven't turned to God to help me get through something. And I don't need necessarily a book or a church. You know, we could just go within ourselves. But sometimes for me, I need something that's just going to give me that confirmation, that encouragement, that inspiration, that motivation to say, yeah, it's okay. It's all going to be okay. So I would take the book and I would say, okay, well, what does my heart want to hear? And sometimes there could be a little fear inside because it's like, oh, do I really want to hear the message or not? And I would just open the book to love, right? And it's funny because when I opened the book, I sat here and I opened it a minute ago, and it's the exact page that it fell on. So what I have highlighted here is what is blocking me from realizing my full potential in this regard. So, you know, I would just look at it, I would reflect on it. They weren't all questions, but right now, I mean, I could answer that question. What is blocking me from realizing my full potential in this regard? And that would be being fully present in my body. Being fully here, and slowing down. So I get on these videos and I get excited and I want to speed up, but to help me meet my full potential in this moment, it would be to slow down. So let's take 3 breaths, and you don't have to do it, but I'm going to. So inhale and exhale. And inhale and exhale. And one more time, inhale and exhale. It's amazing. It's amazing how the breath can change everything. So Conversations with God was a great book. Previous video I talked about IFS, internal family systems, and I love IFS. I do IFS on myself, for myself, because it helps me to understand myself. We have many different parts. So the whole concept of this book is that we have a self, and I'll speak to it about myself. So I have this self, and I also have many different parts, and these many different parts may desire different things. But they also, I may have firefighter parts that like try to put out the fires, and I may yell to try to like get things back into homeostasis of my stress level, or of a calm level. I mean, at the time it was like, was my homeostasis in 2015 of where calm was. But now it's like calm is here. Like it's just so calm within my system because of all of the work that I've done, regulating my nervous system, releasing stress, those types of things. And so we have all of these parts. We have managers. They try to manage everything and control everything. If you're struggling with control, if you're struggling with wanting things to be a certain way and they're not, if you're struggling with perfectionism, self-sabotage, procrastination, understanding those parts of you will transform your life. And really what I've learned is that all anything ever wants is love. That's it. It's really that simple. And there's many ways to get and to give and to receive that love, but it's mostly about, letting love in even deeper than it's been before, into your heart, into your mind, into your body, into these parts, and letting the parts of you know that you're worthy and deserving of love, and that there's absolutely nothing in this world that you can do that would make you undeserving of love. So that's what this book is about. I mean, Dick Schwartz talks about how he works with people in prison, and he's never met a bad part, ever. Even people who have done horrendous things, he's worked with them, and he's found the child within that was also hurting. And, they didn't really want to hurt anybody else. And so this is a really great book, especially if you're working to understand yourself and you want to make shifts, you want to heal trauma, and and you have the capacity to do it on your own. Okay, so then I started, so in the beginning of this healing journey, when you're like, oh, manifestation, yeah, it's all about manifestation. Let's manifest what we want. Let's think about it and visualize it. Okay, I was never like really into that because as I mentioned before, like I've always really just loved God and wanted a deeper connection with God. But of course I was like, yeah, let's talk about manifesting and like really understanding what I want. And so I read the book, The Secret, right? Who hasn't heard about the book, The Secret? And it's all about really understanding your thoughts and shifting your thoughts to be in a positive mindset. Now, if you try to do this, for me, I found I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm just going to think positive. So anything that came up, I would like turn it positive. It was actually kind of depressing. And the reason that it was depressing is because I was physically and mentally and emotionally depressing how I actually felt. So I would depress, right, like push down what I actually felt in order to feel happy. So Rhonda Byrne, she wrote the book, The Secret, and she had other people on it, like Lisa Nichols and Michael Bernard Beckwith, and these people, incredible teachers. I've actually had the opportunity to go to a Lisa Nichols event and coach one-on-one with Lisa Nichols, just like magical, dreamy stuff. But what I realized is that I couldn't follow along with The Secret. I couldn't just try to stay positive because it was like I was denying a part of me, right? Like it completely, no bad parts, and The Secret were not on alignment. And I was really about understanding who I am and what I wanted and what kept me from feeling loved and what kept me from loving others and what kept me from receiving love. So then there's this book that came out called The Greatest Secret by Rhonda. And she talks about how after she wrote The Secret, she was depressed. And so she spent 10 years going around the world and uncovering the secrets to help her feel better. And what she learned is that in order for us to feel better, we have to welcome and honor the parts of us that don't feel good. We have to honor the parts of us that are negative. And so she learns this, and that's what she teaches in this book. It's a great book. Let's see what it says here. All right, so it talks right here. Okay, so it talks about negative feelings. All right, here it goes. So this is page 105 of The Greatest Secret. And it says, our resistance to what is happening and our negative feelings not only hold the situation we don't want firmly to us, but also drain our body of energy and even impact our immune system. So, we don't have to hold on to the negative feeling, and by trying to be positive about it or ignoring it or not bringing it to the forefront, we're actually holding on to it, and it takes more energy to hide something. Like, have you ever tried to keep a secret? It takes more energy to hide something than it does to release it, or to hold on to it. So if you so that's how that. So that book was great because it confirmed what I already knew. So yeah, there's that. Okay, so we talked about that book. These 3 books I'm going to save because I'm going to do an academic version of this. Okay, so then the book that changed it all. Mary Magdalene Revealed. Okay, so there were the things that I knew about, how, I started questioning things. Okay, and if you're devout Christian and you do not want to change your belief systems, I recommend you not watch anymore. Because I'm going to start talking about things that will make you question your beliefs. So just based on history, we know that Jesus wasn't born at Christmas time in winter. We know that it was in the census, and the census was in the spring. So, things like this, I just man, this just doesn't make sense. And then just other things about the story of Jesus, it just didn't line up for me. And I'll get more into that. I'll talk more about that when I talk more about my academic excursions. But things just didn't line up. And I was like, well, why were women kicked out? Why weren't women a part of this movement? It makes no sense to me. If Mary Magdalene was the first person to see Jesus, and this is one of the greatest things, this resurrection, and she was the one that found him, then why isn't this a bigger part of the story? So I get this book, Mary Magdalene Revealed. Something draws me to it. Oh, before this, I read Untamed, which, by the way, great book. If you're feeling a little trapped, read Untamed. Your life will change forever. Untamed by Glennon Doyle. She's just incredible. Okay, so Mary Magdalene Revealed is by a Harvard theologian, Megan Watterson, and this book, I have note. Can you see this? Almost every page is highlighted, okay? And so I love this book. I've read it multiple times. And you know what this book did to me? It helped me feel worthy in a more true Christianity. In a Christianity that was more aligned to what I believe Jesus was like. Okay? And so just by reading this book, I felt inherently more worthy. Okay, so let's open it up. So what you'll learn, and I'm going to talk more about the Gospel of Mary because I love the Gospel of Mary. But Mary talks about, in the Gospel of Mary, which is, by the way, and I'll talk more about this, there's Gospels that were kept out of the New Testament, and the Gospel of Mary is one of those. I'll have a whole session on that. Okay, so here it opens up and it says, so this is what I learned as a little girl. I am only safe when I am divided. So this is about the third power, and in Mary's gospel, she talks about these powers that keep us, the powers of the ego that keep us from the child of true humanity, which exists within us, which is who we truly are, this child of true humanity, and that's what we're working to get back to in every moment. Some people might call this the inner child, but we're working to get back to the child of true humanity, who see through the eyes of the child, right? Love, forgiveness, compassion, empathy. So here, and what I write here is, we have forgotten that we can heal ourselves. We have forgotten who we are. And that's ignorance. So the third power is ignorance. And it's really about coming back to ourselves. It's about understanding who we are, just this page. And understanding that we don't have to be divided anymore. We can just be who we are in all aspects of whatever that means. We don't have to be we don't have to have a one-liner as to who we are or an elevator pitch as to what we do. We're multifaceted beings. I have so many things that I do, so many things that I love to do. I can't just give you a one-liner as to who I am. I feel there's so many aspects to who I am. But this book, I mean, is incredible. In fact, we may just spend a whole session studying this book. So that's that. I love this book. It's absolutely incredible. And yeah. Well, I'll do, so the next video I'll do it on my academic studies, the books on my academic studies, and we'll go from there.